Where did they go? What happened to them? So the way you've created the economics and the value equation is why I'm fundamentally very intrigued by that, that you've been able to do that. And so I'm going to take you to the next level, which is where the economics play significantly, right? Which is channel economics. There are two types of customers you have in the travel business. There are those who are in market, who are raising their hands and saying, I want to go now. I want to book something right now, right? Let's talk about them. How are you reaching them? How do you engage them with a proposition that says, wow, I want to do that?
So that market actually obviously is the easiest market in a sense, right? Because they're motivated. They're already looking to travel, and I will almost dare you to go on Google flight search and put any two markets that we happen to fly in, and have us not be the top the top option that comes up on your search, right? Because so for us on that side of it, it's relatively easy that we will because of our price point, we will almost every time be at the top, if not the top two, maybe, in terms of our search results, right? So that market is actually relatively straightforward. The what really matters on that specific market is ensuring that there's an education that comes with it as well, right?
Exactly.
You're motivated to travel, great. You start looking to book, great. And but remember, you're not going to get your bag and your seat. So make sure you know what you're buying before you go through that process, right? And so that
Exactly.
education part of it is a real critical part for us,
Right.
making sure that they understand the model before they complete their purchase.
Completely. The $35 ticket is very attractive. It's something you gravitate to immediately, to your point, but then you don't want to have this immediate shock and disappointment, which is where education comes into play, to for them to know that this is truly customizing it to your preference and there's no subsidy associated with that. You're not paying for somebody else's travel. That's the reason why you're offering what you're offering. So there's a lot of work there to do, right? Um,
And sorry, Suraj, one thing I'll just sort of quickly mention around that is that, on average, our fare plus our bag, let's just say, which is sort of the standard product that most people will buy, is generally about 30% lower in the market than anyone else, right? And so one of the things that we always encourage actually, right, people to do is that if you're coming to our site or if you're coming to an online travel agency, go ahead and compare, right? Because we're very comfortable that we will come out far lower than where everybody else.
Perfect. You remind me of the Walmart's everyday low pricing capability, which is actually that will actually force you to say, compare it the receipt by receipt, same items, and you're going to walk away with much better pricing overall. And that's exactly your strategy there. Let me move you to the second audience, which is the audience that may not be in the market to book or plan right now. They are in the process. They may be there weeks, maybe months. And so, how do you get to them? They may not even be familiar with this spirit proposition and whatnot. How do you address that?
Yeah, and that's where I mentioned that a little bit in the earlier panel. That's where a lot of our, we need to inspire travel at that point. We need to let people know that one, we're in the market, and that's not always easy, right? Because we are a smaller player, and so people that have been living in a city that has been served by Carrier X, that's where they tend to gravitate towards. And so one of the things that some of the things that we've done is we're very heavy on new market activations. We try to put a lot of noise into new markets, but then from that point on, it's how do we continue to invest in whether it's paid or some of the or organic media to really drive the inspiration around travel and connecting that inspiration with the fact that we're able to serve that need, right? And so whether it's around social marketing, it's around some content marketing that we do. We did a program a couple of years ago called Music for Miles that was just around. We were just promoting musicians that if you wanted to fly around the country, we would pay for your flights, and in turn, you just had to just tag us, as part of the Spirit brand. And that what it did was it associated something that people didn't really think about in terms of traveling necessarily on its own, but they thought about music. They like music, and they saw there some musicians they liked or local musicians, and then they used that as that was a good way for us to have a conversation around the fact that, hey, this is how these people are getting around. Don't you want to do the same thing?
Yeah, excellent. Um, I can continue this dialogue for another hour easily. Um, let's do this. let's get somebody else here in the crowd involved in terms of what questions are in your mind. Because really, this is it. This is the core proposition here. How do you manage this kind of an unbundled positioning, experience that goes with it, and then the channel economics that actually go to really sustain growth over time, right? And I think for those who are really trying to build services on top of your core product line, this is where it all is. It's a real challenge. I was having dinner with Dan Gray from Ford, who is responsible for the whole EV experience last night. And Dan, tell me, what is your goal there at Ford? Absolutely. What I will highlight and what caught my attention the most in the conversation we had last night was the ambition you have in terms of what percentage of your total EV revenue you want it to be a services revenue. What percentage is that? There you go. See what I'm talking about?
I'm writing a book. I'll hand it over to you later. Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. You know, when we embarked on a major shift, as I said earlier, around going from sort of cheap to value, and what we recognized was at the end of the day, we can't put lipstick on a pig, right? And so at the end of the day, the things that matter the most, and so we went out there and said, hey, what are the biggest dissatisfiers to the guest experience? And number one was what you just said: cancellations and on-time performance. And so over the last, so the first thing we actually worked on a number of years ago was exactly that. And sort of pre-COVID, I think we finished as high as third on-time performance, and something we were extremely proud of. You know, it's we don't necessarily want to be first, right? Because it's pretty expensive to be first, frankly, right? There's a lot of cost that you have to incur to actually get to the first spot. But certainly in the middle of that pack, and certainly being in the top three, you know, was something that I think was an evidence of what we were doing. And so from a marketing perspective, that's what we cared about first, right? We didn't we were fine to do all the other things, but until that got done, it didn't matter what our message was going to be out there. And so more recently, you know, we've had, especially in Florida, Florida's just been just nonstop for whatever reason, not whatever reason. There's many reasons. Everybody does want to come here, but unfortunately, there's you probably heard in the news. There's issues with the air traffic control. There's restricted airspace. So as a result of it, you know, and we are a Florida-based airline, so we are impacted more than any other airline as a rule, right? And so as a result of it, when we see these, you know, so online on-time performance type of metrics starting to slide, that really hurts us, and we have to do it. You know, we have to kind of work 10 times harder. One with the operations to make sure that we're getting kind of up the ranks again. But then secondly, how do we sort of overcome that sentiment that's been created as a result of that?
Of course. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Reed, I'll tell you right now
No.
that you know when if you're delayed at TSA, we still hear about it, right? Spirit Airlines, you know, didn't let me out. You know what? TSA doesn't work for us, right? Like
So,
there's
Rana, I have a related question for you on that one. Um, the single biggest challenge that I imagine and transition, because there are many clients we work with who are trying to do exactly what you're trying to on the services side. I thought where you were going to go with the question was, it is true that that's the issue we face many times, but I am not really sure that that's unique to Spirit. There are other airlines that I highly respect who have similar massive issues and have created amazing disappointment for me. Where I want to go with this discussion right now is that part of your airline operation is very core to the DNA of running an airline. The bigger issue we have, with half the revenue coming from services, how are you managing the quality of those services that you're actually selling? Like, you're selling the baggage pickup or delivery or whatever it is, or other related things that you are trying to do, that's not a standard part of your service organization. So how do you manage that?
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. Fulfillment is obviously the key, right? That it doesn't matter what you sell if you can't hold on to the money, right? And we're a very data intensive organization. We you won't find too many folks in the marketing organization that pay as much attention as we do to the operational metrics, right? We're consistently looking at the operational metrics because we recognize just what you just said and what you're asking, that if the fulfillment's not there, then the ability for us to continue to promote the products and services that we have is gonna be diminished, right? And so we've put in over the last couple of years a lot more kind of dashboardy type solutions for most of the marketing team. So they look at everything on a daily basis. My team looks at all our KPIs for the operations, ties that back to the revenue goals that we have, ties that back to the funnel goals that we have, conversion goals. So metrics is sort of just how we are constantly sort of monitoring. But the other thing that I think is an advantage to us, when I started, we were taking our 50th. I think we were taking about our 50th plane. Maybe it's our 50th city. I can't remember. I always mix them up. But I think it was our 50th plane, and I think we were announcing maybe our 35th city. And today we just took our 200th plane. We're at 90 cities, 50 million passengers. That's what we're flying,
It's
right?
fantastic. Yes,
In
yeah.
in 2025, I was just sharing this with one of my colleagues here, is that in 2025 we'll have 100 million passengers that will be flying, right? And so when you think about that scale, what we really have to figure out is how to take that data, and how do you digest it quickly, and how do you make decisions quickly.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have only a minute and a half. Okay, that's okay. So okay, so that's very important. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, um, I think what we have done in the last 7 years has already been a major step for this organization, right? That we have that I've been for my entire career. I've always been a digital guy. I just believe, and it's not that I don't like people, but I love robots, right? And so I think the kind of the biggest opportunities that I see is how to actually create uh, interaction through artificial intelligence, right? I see that as being one of the key opportunities that we have. That how do you actually create a what feels like another human being talking to you and interacting with you to actually help you with the questions and needs that you have, right? So instead of just going through a process where you have to make all the decisions yourself and make the selections yourself, how do we actually provide? I mentioned earlier, kind of this sort of concierge type service to actually help people through the whole process, help them with the education side of things. But you can't, in a model like ours. It's hard to do it with humans. You got to be able to find ways to do it through technology.
Let me conclude that because I don't want to have dirty looks from her. But it's like you gotta. um, let me just say one thing. If you were asking one question, what's the next big fundamental issue on a marketer's mind? Is growing revenue. And this is an amazingly important channel and an avenue that every marketer will have to be concerned with to figure out how to solve that problem. I am so appreciative that you actually shared all your insights with us. There was a question I had. I don't know if we have the time, but if we have the time, capture
She
it
she
in
she doesn't have
three
any dirty looks yet.
capture it in just three things, three key recommendations for people like Dan and others who are here, whose ambitions are really to grow services revenue. What should they be thinking about?
Well, I don't think I'm going to say anything particularly profound because I'm in a room full of smart marketers. But and I don't know if I can get to three, frankly. But the one thing that I really focus a lot of our time and effort on is in being in that test and learn environment, right? I think one of the mistakes that organizations make is to try to figure it all out, try to figure out all the details, and then try to go to market with it. And I think you have to have an organization that is willing to take risks, make mistakes, but learn quickly, right? And not get so beholden to the idea that you had, right? Like People get really passionate about their ideas, rightfully. They see a product that they want to take to market, they see a service they want to take to market, or a market they want to get into, right? So that really believe the city is going to be our next big city, and we're going to launch there. And when the data is telling you, right? If it makes sense, right? There may be some other underlying factors that maybe things you have to look at. But if you know that the data is telling you that it's not working, shift and shift fast, right? I think that's probably been the key for us as an organization to have we've moved as quickly as we have, and at the same time, the learning isn't just your own activity, right? It's also learning from the market out there as well, right? So what are one of the things that we constantly look at is don't look in the airline industry, right? If you're looking for innovation, don't bother necessarily looking at your neighbor, right? Look outside of your industry, look at the what other industries are doing, and determine, hey, are those things that we can apply quickly? Somebody mentioned earlier around buy now, pay later, and that was one of the first things that as soon as I sort of saw that in some other retail experience, I was like, hey, this works even better for us, right? Because I don't need the buy now pay later for my $99 air fryer. I do want it for my $3,000 Cancun vacation, though, right? And so those are things that we're starting to adopt very quickly into the marketplace.
Rana, thank you so much. You were so insightful,
Thank you.
really.
Thank you.